Welcome to a new episode of A Guide to Lotro. In today's episode, the Great East Road. This is a subscriber special that I spontaneously came up with. This video is not promoted on Reddit or in-game, so it's meant to be only for the people that are subscribing and browsing the channel. Thank you for your support and I hope you enjoy this video. This video will follow the same layout as we know from the other videos that I created. Since we cannot talk about these dungeons here, we're gonna focus today more on the history and landscape part. In the landscape part, I will try to reconstruct what we can find in the game from the Great East Road, and we will follow it step by step with some landscape shots. The history and creation of the Great East Road reaches all the way back into the First Age of the world. During this time, Middle-earth was still connected eastwards to a continent of equal size called Beleriand. Beleriand was the place where major battles, drama, war and lore of the first elves, humans and dwarves play out. In the scope of this history section, we want to highlight the two dwarven kingdoms Nogrod and Belegost found in Beleriand. Beleriand was split from Middle-earth and Eriador by the mountain chain called the Blue Mountains. The two bigger dwarven fortresses, Nogrod and Belegost, were located in the Blue Mountains as well. This was only one place in the world where the dwarves dwelt. Other places included the Erethmitrin, the Iron Hills, Gundabad, and Khazad-dûm, which is also known as Moria. In order to connect those ancient dwarven kingdoms, the dwarves started building a road that should reach all the way from Beleriand to the far east in Middle-earth. The goal was to connect the kingdoms Nogrod and Belegost with the far eastern kingdoms in the Iron Hills. The Great East Road was constructed. At the end of the First Age, there was a terrible and epic war fought between the elves, men, dwarves, and even Valar against Morgoth, the source of all evil in the world Arda. This war was called the War of Wrath and was around 100 times bigger than the siege of Minas Tirith and the army of the Five Battles combined. It involved everything the good and bad has to offer. Even the literal gods called the Valar helped the elves, men and dwarves in that battle. Multiple Balrogs, which were the dark minions of Morgoth, were involved, as well as giant dragons that make Smaug look like an ant. This was a battle of darkness against light. The results of this epic battle was the defeat of Morgoth and his reign over most of Middle-earth and Beleriand. At the same time, the War of Wrath caused such a destruction that the entire continent of Beleriand broke away from Middle-earth and sunk into the ocean Beliger. What is left is what we see today. With the destruction and fall of Beleriand, Nogrod and Belegost got destroyed as well. The Great East Road would lose of importance. In the Second Age, which followed after the destruction of Beleriand, the Great East Road would still be used by traders. It was also a starting point for many fortresses and cities of the men. Some of them are Breetown, Lake Town. This here is, by the way, New Lake Town. And we also have Dale. The Kingdom of Arnor even decided and built an entire watchtower called the Amonsul in the Lonelands to guard over the Great East Road. They also decided to build bridges like the Brandywine Bridge or the Lost Bridge to make the Great East Road somehow still accessible. In general, the Great East Road lost importance with each year that passed. Since the fall of Arnor, nobody really took an effort to restore or keep the road going. With the years, the Great East Road would fall apart and only some parts were left as a relic of history. For this landscape section, we will write the Great East Road in-game, or what we can at least find. The Great East Road somehow started in the Grey Heavens. It would then cross Eriador into the Misty Mountains. From there it would connect to the Old Forest Road, which leads all the way to the Iron Hills. We're gonna start this journey in the Shire. What I could reconstruct from the Great East Road looks like this somehow. For this we're gonna start in Mickle Delving. Here we find the Down Gate, which is unfortunately closed. This would lead to the Far Downs and later on to the Grey Havens. From here, the Great East Road would lead through Mickle Delving. After that, we reach Waymeet, which is another hobbit village. You will also find a few dwarven traders. Next stop is Bywater. And Botchford. After that we're gonna pass Stock and the Brandywine Bridge. The Brandywine Bridge marks the borders to the Breeland. For the Breelands I constructed this path. And we're gonna continue from here. Here we find Buckland, which is another hobbit colony. When we follow the Great East Road towards Bree, we find on the south side the Old Forest. Here we will keep going on the southern Bree fields. Just in front of the gates of Breetown, there is the Greenway crossing. This is where the Great East Road crosses the Greenway. The Greenway is a road that connected Fornost with Minas Tirith. On this journey we reached Breetown now. The Breetown was somewhere constructed in the Second Age by men of Dunland at the remainings of the Great East Road. Many travelers on the Great East Road would also choose the Prancing Pony as their stay in Breetown. When we keep following the Great East Road, we will find the Yellow Tree, which is some sort of enchanted tree. Now we would pass the Mitchwater Marsh. This also marks the border to the Lonelands, which is the region we're gonna look at after. Now we enter the Lonelands. Here reconstructing the Great East Road is kinda trivial, as you can see here. Just at the border to the Breeland, we're gonna pass the Forsaken Inn. After the Forsaken Inn, we're gonna pass the plains of Anunlos. When we look to the north, we can also see the Amonsul, the Weathertop. This is a watchtower constructed by High King Elendil in the Kingdom of Arnor. The Great East Road in the Lonelands would also make up the borders between Cardolan and Rudor. Everything that you can find southwards of the Great East Road is usually considered Cardolan. And everything in the north is Rudor. The region of the Great East Road would also mark the place of many skirmishes and smaller wars between those two kingdoms. We can find here many ruins of those Cardolan and Rudor fortresses standing head to head against each other. The last place in the Lonelands is the Tal of Gon, which is the border to the Trollshaws. Here it is a little bit harder to reconstruct the Great East Road. In the books it is said that the Great East Road passed Rivendell and the Northern High Pass. I made the decision that the Great East Road here would pass right through Rivendell into the Misty Mountains. For this we start at the last bridge. The last bridge was eventually constructed by the Kingdom of Arnor. It crosses the river Myth Aethel, which has its roots in the Ettenmoors. From here, we're gonna ride through the forests of the Trollshaws. Occasionally, you will also of course encounter trolls here. If we keep going, we will find the river the Bruinen. Here we're gonna cross the ford of Bruinen and go up the High Moor towards Rivendell. On the map we are somewhere here now. There is a very steep path that leads up to the High Moor. And that's how it looks like on top of the High Moor. What a view! If we find our way through the High Moor, we will find the gates of Imladris, which leads to Rivendell. Rivendell is a elven fortress led by Elrond the half-elf. Here I will just let you enjoy this beautiful place. In order to get to the Misty Mountains and follow the Great East Road to the Northern High Pass, we're gonna follow this path here. So, not gonna lie, but the Misty Mountains is quite hard and challenging to find out where the Great East Road would run through. This is what I came up with. Let's start around here. Our goal is to get to the Northern High Pass, which is the only and last recording of the Great East Road in history. This is also the source of the Bruinen River that runs through Rivendell. This here is the northern source. At the top you can also see the dwarven fortress Heligrot. Then we would pass in the East Bruinen source. Before we reach the Northern High Pass, there is the Catwell Pool, which is a frozen lake with a goblin encampment. On our journey, we are around here now. At the entrance to the Northern High Pass, there is a small dwarf encampment called Vindurhall. Here the Great East Road would follow the Northern High Pass, which is a very short and shallow path at the northern mountain slope. If you find the wrong turn, you will find the Black Crack, which leads into Goblin Town. If you don't get lost, you will find a Bjorning guard and the portal to the Vales of Anduin. Here technically the Great East Road would end. It would rather connect to the Old Forest Road, which then leads all the way into the Iron Hills. In order to finish our journey, we're gonna keep going on the Old Forest Road. The Old Forest Road looks something like this. And we're gonna keep going from here. Just after the portal to the Misty Mountains, there is a frozen lake. And after that, a long misty path leads us all the way to the Anduin. From here we can also see the Bjorning lands in the distance. There is a dwarven bridge, which is called the Hadhoriant, which leads over the Anduin. Unfortunately, this bridge is destroyed, so you have to run around it. If you run around, you will pass the old fort. After the old fort, we will reach the wood's edge. This is at the edge to the Mirkwood, where we will find a gate that we cannot pass yet in the game. The Old Forest Road would usually pass through the Mirkwood here. Since the terror of Sauron spread through the world from Dol Guldur, this is considered a very dangerous place and people usually would not take this road anymore. Since the game does not let us explore the rest of the path, we have to jump a bit. Now we would jump into the map of Erin Las Galen. This is where we find Erebor, Dale, Feligoth and Lake Town. The Old Forest Road looks something like this here. And this is where we continue our journey from. Here we find a gate that leads to a part of the world that we cannot explore yet. When we keep following the long lake, we will find Lake Town. This is Lake Town that the men built after the destruction of Smaug. When we keep following the path to the north, we will find Dale lands. From here we can also see the Erebor. The Old Forest Road would then lead through Dale. And then exit towards the Iron Hills. The Iron Hills is the last part of our journey. If you remember, the Great East Road had the goal to connect Eriador or Beleriand with the Dwarven kingdoms in the Iron Hills. This is where we are at now. This is how the rest of the road looks like. On our journey through the Iron Hills, we will find Utterby, which is now occupied by Easterlings. Our end station is Yarnfast. Yarnfast is a dwarven fortress and probably one of the oldest places that you can find in Middle-earth which is still inhabited. This place is probably around since the First Age. This is also where our journey is going to end. Well, that was pretty much it with this subscriber special episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, you can like and subscribe me on YouTube or Twitch. Thanks for watching, and I see you in another episode of A Guide to Lotro.